Hey guys, so this is Jax coming at you. I've just finished editing this video and I think this is probably one of, if not the best videos I've ever put out on this channel. This video has so many great tips and great gameplay that I didn't even realize it had all come together so well while I was recording it. So I really suggest you guys watch all the way through if you want to learn how to play this matchup. But a few other things before I get into the actual intro. SK's mic turned out to be really quiet. I don't know why, but he's really quiet. I noticed while editing that he was audible, but he was pretty hard to hear. So you guys might want to turn the video volume up, just to make sure you can hear him. If you can hear him at lower volumes, that's perfectly great. I'm not sure how low the volume has to be to hear him, but I would just suggest turning it up a bit if you can't hear him. And also, I think my internet was being really slow or something because my face cam and gameplay kept lagging for like a few seconds at a time. For certain parts of the videos. It's really not that much of the video, but there are a few parts where I am lagging a bit, so I just wanted to let you guys know before we got into the. Hey YouTube, what's going on? It is Jack Sarah back with another video, and today is going to be the long-awaited Ultimate Xbow guide. I've done a few guides on stuff like Logbait and Lava Hound in my previous videos, but today's video is going to be different. We're going to be on call with a great Xbow player. His name is SK555. I'll let him introduce himself in a second, but we have pro tips from the best players of each deck in the world. I have pro tips from Carpi, aka PHATCAT. He's sent me a few pro tips against Xbow, and SK has gotten a few pro tips from Ian, who is a top 10 ladder finish with Xbow against P.E.K.K.A. So it's going to be a really great video. Also, if you guys can't tell, I have a new mic. Blue Yeti, finally got the good quality, good stuff right here. And my friend SK, his mic is kind of reverbing a little bit. We tested this a bit before recording. So he's still audible, but it's kind of a weird sound, so I'm really sorry about that. His earbuds and their mic recently broke, so again, apologies for that. SK, if you want to say hi and let them hear how your mic is, go ahead, sir.
Hey guys, I'm SK. I've been playing Xbow for a couple of years and I really enjoy playing the deck. I'm excited to share this video with you guys with pro tips from the best Xbow players in the world. I hope Jax and myself can help you guys understand the matchup better from both sides. And if you're watching this as an Xbow player, if you wanted to know how to beat P.E.K.K.A even more than you already do, well, here you go.
And SK is a top 300 ladder finish with Xbow and a top 200, global tournament finish. He is absolutely insane with this deck, so this will be a really nice video. We're kind of going to have like a podcast format here. I'm going to give pro tips from Carpi, like I said, and pro tips from myself, just as the P.E.K.K.A, a pretty good P.E.K.K.A player, not as good as Carpi, but hopefully you can get more out of the matchup because Carpi's tips aren't going to be like the end all of tips. Same with Ian's, so SK is going to give his own tips on P.E.K.K.A playing against P.E.K.K.A from Xbow's perspective, and it's just going to be a great video. We're going to have like a long talk about the matchup, all that good stuff, and then we'll have some live games at the end if you guys want to watch. I'm going to put on some replays from a recent ladder push. They won't be Xbow replays, but they should still be fine. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and we'll catch you in the first part. Alright, so starting off this kind of new format, we are going to talk about our opinions on the matchup as just like a matchup in general, like what we think the matchup advantage is for one deck and stuff like that. So, SK, what do you think the matchup advantage is for Xbow or P.E.K.K.A?
Alright, so I would say the matchup is 70-30 in Xbow's favor. There are many reasons for this. The first reason would be that the Tesla is basically impossible for the P.E.K.K.A player to deal with properly, because the Xbow player can just play really passively and play a lot of pre-Teslas, and basically anything the P.E.K.K.A player plays kind of goes into the Tesla.
Right.
And also, the Xbow player can easily outcycle the P.E.K.K.A player's main counters to their Xbow, so you can go in with offensive Xbows and outcycle the P.E.K.K.A player's P.E.K.K.A and Poison, and then the P.E.K.K.A player is forced to play their squishy, easily defendable support troops onto the Xbow.
So I agree with that. 70-30 is a pretty accurate representation. It's not like 100-0 or something in Xbow's favor, just because the P.E.K.K.A player does have that poison, which can get a ton of value on like an Xbow and a tower and an archers or something like that. And they can always get a quick bandit dash or slip through with a nice play that is always just going to let them keep up with damage. The damage is really the big thing, and it's, while difficult, it's not totally impossible to keep up with the Xbow player, but it is really hard to defend sometimes. So that's why, and break through that pre-Tesla, of course. So that's why I think the matchup, that's why I agree with your analysis of the matchup.
Yeah, so I think another thing that's pretty important to note is that Xbow players have started playing Knight instead of Ice Golem, and this is actually something that sets the matchup in Xbow's favor even more, because the knight has that capability of counterattacking. So,
Right.
for example, you play an Xbow push, and you can support it with a knight, so it can counterattack their bandit, their ghost, their P.E.K.K.A, and there's not much you guys can do, especially because the knight has so much HP, can actually survive 2 P.E.K.K.A hits, which is just
Yeah.
insane if you think about it.
You have to
And
zap it so that it dies in one hit. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and just the quick cycle of Xbow and the cycle cards of Xbow just allows you to get some insane value from your cards and make really efficient positive elixir trades. So
Agreed.
one thing you can do is you can fully counter a bandit with just skeletons. There's a specific placement that you can kite the bandit to the middle of the map where both princess towers will target it, and then it'll walk to the princess tower. So even if the P.E.K.K.A player zaps the skeletons, the bandit will still only get like 1 hit on the tower, and that's also a -4 trade for the P.E.K.K.A player.
For
So
sure,
the
that
Xbow
placement
player
is
just has-
insane.
Yeah, so the Xbow player just has the capability to make insane positive trades, which is just kind of an effect of the difference in cycles and the cycle cards.
Exactly. So, if you guys want to see that placement exactly, SK is actually a YouTuber as well. Shame on me for not mentioning this, but make sure to go subscribe to him if you want to see more Xbow content. He has a video on this. It is a really great video to go and watch, like 30 seconds long. It shows exactly the placement and the timing you want. So make sure to go and watch that. It'll be the top link in the description. And make sure to go subscribe to his YouTube channel as well. It's a really good channel to... I've learned a lot about Xbow from watching his channel as well. Starting into the pro tips now, I'm going to be sharing the pro tips from Carpi, who is PHATCAT, the best P.E.K.K.A player in the world by far. So some of Carpi's tips are don't use Magic Archer and Ewas within fireball range of the tower. And this is really important because it's really easy for them to take that trade and eliminate pretty much any support, and that pretty much guarantees you won't be able to kill Xbows if they go in if they go in within the next 10 or 15 seconds. And it basically means you won't be able to break through, because you can't really break through a Tesla without that Magic Archer being able to support. So he always says to make sure that they're not able to get tower damage, as well as getting that already of like a positive trade for themselves. And he also says that if they split archers and you are not at 10 elixir, so like you're not bleeding, you should Magic Archer the one archer and get the tower damage. And this is just a good play because you can ignore the other archer, so it's a 4-for-3 trade, and they can't really support because you get a lot of damage and probably have to kill the Magic Archer. So those are 2 of Carpi's pro tips. And then the last pro tip he gave me, which is a question I asked him because a lot of people have this question. He says, I asked, should you P.E.K.K.A the bridge all points? And he says, if you are up elixir, you should P.E.K.K.A the bridge. Or up or even, you should P.E.K.K.A the bridge. And if you are down, you should P.E.K.K.A down low so that you have time to build up a defense. And SK here has a few pro tips from Ian, who's a top 10 finish with Xbow as well. So would you like to tell them these tips?
Yeah, of course. So what Ian told me mainly is that you want to pre-Tesla and play patiently. Like I said before, this is because basically anything the P.E.K.K.A player cycles goes into the Tesla. So let's say you pre-Tesla. Their options are Bandit the back, Battle Ram the back, Ghost the back, maybe Magic Archer the back. And everything except the Magic Archer kind of goes into the Tesla, and you can easily block it with a cycle card, and the Tesla stays alive. So what Ian says is that you should just play really patiently and defend for most of single elixir if the P.E.K.K.A player doesn't make a mistake. And eventually you'll have maybe a half health Tesla, and the P.E.K.K.A player will have nothing on the board. So you can then Xbow with the Tesla and either break through or be up in elixir after the interaction. So what this does is it'll allow you to outcycle the P.E.K.K.A player's counters like P.E.K.K.A or Poison, and you'll be in an advantage position for your next Xbow push. Ian also says is that you should never Xbow with nothing on the field or no elixir advantage, especially in single elixir, because even though you can defend their counter push, you'll take some damage if you play it right, or you might be forced to over-defend, and then you'll be down elixir, which is obviously something you never want to have happen against a bridge spam deck like P.E.K.K.A, a high-pressure deck. And
Right.
another thing to remember is that you can fully counter an Ewas with skeletons or Ice Spirit, especially because of the most recent Ewas nerf. You can counter Ewas fully with either one of the cycle cards, which is an easy +3 trade.
Yep.
And like I said before, there's also that Skeleton's placement to fully counter the Bandit. And you also want to vary your Skelly's placements against Bandits so that they can't prediction zap your Skeletons.
And that is definitely one of the most critical things in the matchup. If you know your opponent doesn't have anything other than skeletons and cycle, for instance, and you have a bandit coming down the lane, or you attack a pre-Tesla with a bandit, always kind of pre-zap. And my recommended pre-zap placement is right below the tower. So if you watch SK's video, you should always pre-zap that placement first, because that is the most common placement. Second is the middle of the arena. And what you should do is you shouldn't pre-zap the first time you have a bandit coming down. You should just let it die and see where they place their skeletons, because they're likely to place it there again, especially if they aren't a top tier Xbow player. And you can kind of guess that pre-zap position again the next time and surprise them and get damage on the Tesla, which allows you to attack with a battle ram, or you can get damage on their tower, which is even more lucrative, so that you can win the tiebreaker race.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what Ian's last point kind of leads into, where if you vary your skeletons placements against bandits, which is, as Jack said, something top tier Expo players do, they won't be able to get that prediction zap. So let's say you use the recommended placement the first time, then the second time they have a bandit coming down, you can skeletons either in the far corner of the map or right next to the bandit even sometimes. So you just want to vary it a lot so that you're kind of not letting yourself get caught off guard, because you really don't want to take a full bandit charge to your Tesla or to your tower.
Yeah. And so some more pro tips. Now we're going to get into the pro tips from each of our own experiences. So another pro tip is if they place their Tesla 3 tiles from the river, you can place a bandit at the river, like right in front of that Tesla, and that bandit will dash across the river and kill, or be able to dash onto the Tesla. Now this trade really isn't great on its own, because the bandit takes 2 shots while she dashes. Her invincibility is basically useless, and the Tesla attacks her twice, like in the time she takes to dash. So this trade is really best in a push where the Tesla's already distracted by something. You can get that bandit on and then battle ram, and they'll be caught really off guard since that bandit acts so quickly, and you can kind of surprise factor them for a lot of damage. This only works once though, because they'll either be able to predict it, or they'll place their Tesla 1 tile lower and pretty much be able to defend without having to worry about that bandit.
Yeah, so one thing that's kind of annoying for the Exo player to deal with is the Royal Ghost. Because of its splash damage capability, you kind of have to defend it in specific ways. So, because we run the Knight now, Knight is a pretty easy, even elixir trade against the Royal Ghost. If you surround the Ghost with skeletons, they'll still get damage, so you have to commit a bit more to that. But something a lot of people don't know is that you can actually split archers. So as the Ghost approaches on your side, you can split archers in the same lane as the Ghost, where the archer closer to the Ghost is split first, and they'll kind of separate, and then they can separate enough where the Ghost doesn't splash both archers. So you can split archers against a Ghost, and that's another way you can counter it, which is pretty useful, especially if you want to save your Knight for other situations.
And this archer's placement is pretty much uncounterable by the P.E.K.K.A player. What we'd have to do is we'd have to zap the archers to get them to within 1 Ghost hit, which is a -2 trade, and it doesn't even get you damage, because the Ghost is always going to be in the middle of both towers, and the other archer is going to be helping it out. And the only other way to really get bypass this is to play a magic archer, which also reduces it to each archer to 1 hit. And this, I think the Ghost does get a hit, but this is also a -4 trade now, and it's not really the greatest unless you are getting ready to support again with a battle ram, because they don't have Fireball or Tesla in cycle.
So another thing that Expo players might want to know is different Tesla placements. So the most standard pre-Tesla placement that I was talking about earlier is just 3 tiles down from the river, right in the middle. This will kite any battle ram, unless it's pushed by the P.E.K.K.A. And it'll kite basically any troop as well, like an E-Wiz, a bandit, a Ghost. So that's the most standard pre-Tesla placement. But sometimes you actually want to vary your Tesla placements. So you can actually Tesla 2 tiles down from the river, which is a bit higher. And what this will do is it'll support your Xbow against a P.E.K.K.A, even if the opponent plays the P.E.K.K.A in the far corner. If you Tesla 2 tiles down from the river, it'll target anything on your Xbow, and it'll be a lot easier to get value while supporting your Xbow push. One thing to note though is that these higher Teslas are a lot more susceptible to getting attacked by the opponent's troops, for example, Bandit dashing like Jax mentioned earlier, or a Magic Archer sniping it down. And you also want to remember that your Teslas can sometimes be sniped by a Royal Ghost in the middle of the map, so you need to be careful and ready to defend those.
Yes. And another pro tip from my perspective as a P.E.K.K.A player is if you are even on Elixir and they go with an Xbow at the bridge and you go with your high P.E.K.K.A because you know that you're even, you should also EWAs with that, even if you're pretty much guaranteed to kill that Xbow. You really want to do this because it's called overkilling, and it can lead to really nice counter pushes sometimes because a P.E.K.K.A EWAs is about 10 times harder for them to deal with than a P.E.K.K.A P.E.K.K.A on its own, excuse me. Because with a P.E.K.K.A on its own, they can just split the archers in the middle, play a knight, they can play their skeletons, they can play basically everything and defend that P.E.K.K.A. But with the EWAs, the knight is now useless because the EWAs changes the 3 HP, 3 hit interaction to kill to 2 interactions, or 2 hits, excuse me. And you can kind of like break through that knight a lot easier, and it kills their skeletons, obviously. The only thing that really isn't affected is archers. And then even if they do use archers, you can kind of go opposite lane and try and take the other archer out, as well as get tower damage on the other lane.
Another thing that's kind of situational is you can predict, this is only applicable if you're really good at counting Elixir, but you can predict if the opponent's going to go with an EWAS or a magic archer in the back, and then you can Xbow opposite lane in single Elixir, and they'll actually won't have enough for a P.E.K.K.A in time. So this is similar to if a Golem player plays a 4 Elixir support troop, you know they won't have enough for a Golem to tank for your Xbow in time. This is kind of the same idea, where if they play a 4 Elixir card, P.E.K.K.A costs 7, so they won't actually be able to play a P.E.K.K.A to tank for your Xbow in time, and you can get a huge lock in single Elixir and basically win the game off that. But it can be risky, and make sure to not over-defend your Xbows, especially in single. You mostly want to let them die if you're not able to get a lock like this.
And even if the Xbow player is hesitant in doing this, and they give you enough time to get down to P.E.K.K.A on the map, that's a literal 0 Elixir P.E.K.K.A, and they're not going to be able to support that P.E.K.K.A any further, and that's basically a guaranteed lock, because they can easily defend that Xbow with their extra 4 Elixir that you wasted in the other lane, with like skeletons and knight and stuff like that. Alright, so now we're going to get into what can lead to an Xbow player being able to win the game and what can lead to a P.E.K.K.A player being able to win the game. So SK, why don't you start off with what an Xbow player can do to help them win the game and what mistakes P.E.K.K.A players make that allow Xbow players to basically win right then and there.
Alright, so like I mentioned earlier, you want to play pretty passively and defensively, especially in single Elixir. But there are 2 exceptions to this rule. So if the P.E.K.K.A player makes a mistake in the form of either wasting a Zap or an EWAS in single Elixir, you can actually go in with an Xbow and you're almost guaranteed to get a connection off of this. So the reason for this is because, as Jax mentioned earlier, EWAS is by far the best troop to support a P.E.K.K.A when defending your Xbow push. So if they cycle an EWAS in the back, you can easily ignore it, maybe defend it for a cycle card for a +3 trade, and in the other lane, you can go with your Xbow push and they won't have that EWAS to defend with the P.E.K.K.A. And if they waste a Zap, you can also go in because they won't be able to kill your skeletons on their P.E.K.K.A, and skeletons can tank 3 P.E.K.K.A hits on your Xbow.
Which is basically enough to kill that P.E.K.K.A with just like another log or maybe archers. It's a really scary play when they can just skeletons to protect their Xbow.
Yeah, so you definitely don't, as a P.E.K.K.A player, you definitely don't want to waste your Zap or EWAS, especially in single Elixir. Like, don't just cycle them for no reason. Because as an Xbow player, those are indications for me to go in, and I know that I'm basically guaranteed to get a connection if I protect my Xbow well.
Yep. And so one of the things that I've noticed lets P.E.K.K.A players win the game is if you can get a damage lead early in single Elixir. This is going to force the Xbow player to play much more aggressively the rest of the game. And what you can do is, as long as they're playing aggressively and you're defending well, you will most likely have an Elixir advantage because of the counter push forcing them to spend on your remaining troops. So what you can do with this is you can, every time that you have a ghost in cycle and you're still up Elixir, you need to be up Elixir to do this play, you can play your ghost in the opposite lane back corner, and what this is going to do is it's going to force constant pressure on that tower. So if they go in for an Xbow because they need to get damage, you can just P.E.K.K.A high, place your EWAS, and now they have to defend the P.E.K.K.A EWAS and a ghost that has already been put on the map. And so this play is absolutely insane because if they use anything to protect their Xbow, the Xbow is now, or their defense on the ghost is now that much weaker. And it's just insanely annoying. This play works so often for me when I've gotten a quick damage lead. and it's one of the most underrated tactics in this matchup. So I would recommend doing that if you can fit those criteria that I mentioned.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The Expo player has to play pretty passively. If they go over aggressive, they won't be able to defend all the pressure, and they'll definitely take a lot of damage. So another thing that a P.E.K.K.A player can mess up, in my experience, this happens to me a lot actually, is the P.E.K.K.A player cycles a bandit or a ghost as a starting play, and I mirror that with a knight in the back. And then what the P.E.K.K.A player does is they actually let the knight walk up and magic archer at the bridge to get a connection. But what I can do is I can just let the magic archer connect to my tower, play a Tesla or archers on the magic archer to kill it, and then Xbow with that push. So I essentially have a half-health knight, a full-health Tesla, and a full-health Xbow, and the P.E.K.K.A player will basically be down elixir if you consider everything that I have on the map, and it'll basically be impossible for them to defend this push. So definitely don't overcommit in this way as a P.E.K.K.A player. I think it's a really greedy play. I think it does sometimes work if the Exo player has a bad cycle, but that's definitely a risk you don't want to take, especially as a starting play. But as the Exo player, if you do have a bad cycle and you're not able to support an Exo push in this way, then you just want to fireball the bandit or ghost and the magic archer together and just let it get maybe 1 or 2 hits if your reaction time is fine.
And I completely and 100% echo this sentiment. This is probably the tip and thing that is like the most guaranteed way to lose the game early against almost any knight deck too. So I would not recommend doing this play unless their knight was really delayed. If their knight was really delayed, that means they were bleeding elixir. And of course, this is first play, obviously, like right at the beginning of the game. So if their knight is really delayed, that means they bled elixir, and it's okay to do this in most situations, I would say. But if they play their knight pretty much instantaneously, you do not want a magic archer for fear of that 4 elixir overcommit.
Yeah, and the last thing that I think P.E.K.K.A players do that I don't think works for them in the matchup, in my experience, is they always P.E.K.K.A in the back when you go with an Expo push, especially in double elixir. Like P.E.K.K.A low, like Jax was mentioning, where Carpi said you should P.E.K.K.A high if you're even on elixir. So I think that this does give the P.E.K.K.A player more time to defend against the Expo push, but it also gives the Expo player more time to support their push on the other hand. So let's say the Expo player goes with an Expo and they have a counter-pushing archers or supporting Tesla on the map. If the P.E.K.K.A player P.E.K.K.A's low, this will allow the Expo player to build up enough elixir to the point where they can basically kill any support troop the P.E.K.K.A player plays. So, as we mentioned earlier, E-Wiz is by far the best support troop to use with the P.E.K.K.A against an Expo. But if you're always going with low P.E.K.K.As, the only way to kill an E-Wiz behind a P.E.K.K.A is a fireball log. But if you're allowing the Expo player to build up this much elixir, they can actually afford to go in with that. So you definitely want to P.E.K.K.A high if you're even on elixir, because you don't want the Expo player to build up such a big advantage, and you also don't want to let them play that many cycle cards and easily outcycle you.
All right, and so the last tip that I have before we get into the live games is that if you remember the bandit placement that I was talking about, this placement is really good in big pushes. So if you have built up an elixir advantage and you can go in for, like, you already have a surviving P.E.K.K.A, what you can do is you can kind of go with a battle ram in the back opposite lane of your P.E.K.K.A and bait out their Tesla to try and kill this P.E.K.K.A and then survive to kill the battle ram in a little bit. So what you can do is if they play that Tesla high, once the P.E.K.K.A locks, or the Tesla locks onto the P.E.K.K.A, you can go with your bandit up high at the bridge, assassinate that Tesla real quick, maybe zap if they try and skeletons, and then that Tesla, which is their main DPS output, is now gone. The P.E.K.K.A can kill pretty much anything else, and they have to overspend on the battle ram since they don't really have a way to kill that for an even trade while defending a P.E.K.K.A. So this is a really good play if you already have elixir down and not just a lone bandit or something like that.
I definitely agree with this sentiment by Jax. I think that quite an underrated play by P.E.K.K.A players is that they can go with a battle ram opposite to kind of force out a Tesla, because like Jax said, especially if they already have a big push coming in, you need the Tesla to make sure the ram doesn't connect to your tower. So you definitely want to take care of the Tesla in this way and kind of force the Expo player to not get that much value from their Tesla. Because if you allow the Expo player to get a lot of value from their Teslas, you're basically going to be down a lot of elixir.
So we're going to go hop right into some live games. This should be maybe about 2 P.E.K.K.A wins since it's going to be uploaded on my channel, and then 1 Xbow win. We'll try and demonstrate the strategies we talked over to win each matchup, and we'll see you in the live games. Alright, so we're going to be hopping into the first game here. Unmute the emote, say good luck. So SK's mic is an earbud mic, which means he has to hold it up to his mouth to get the best audio. So he's not really going to be commentating too much in this game. So I'll probably be carrying most of it and my thought process as well. He can kind of go over at the end when he can hold his mic up. So he's going to be splitting a lot of archers, and I have a really awkward hand here. So he's just going to keep cycling. We're going to let him cycle. I really can't waste any of the cards in my hand. He sends out the Gawa on Fire emote. That is exactly what I'm feeling. So since he goes in with the pre-Tesla, we'll start by battering him in the back. And the reason I go in the back is so that it gets that charge up. You don't want to place it at the bridge and have it cover a lot of distance without a charge up. So we're just going to kind of have to let that go. We do get zap on the skeletons. I missed one, but it should be alright. So he's going to go in with archers all in the same lane. So we're going to take advantage of Carpi's first tip. And since he has the archers down, that means we are down elixir. So we're going to P.E.K.K.A low and let those archers hopefully cross the bridge. Okay, it looks like they're not going to. So we'll Ewas on them both. He's going to go with a fireball. And this is actually a pretty bad start. As you can see, pre-Teslas are really annoying. P.E.K.K.A get one more. Let's go. And I think we'll be able to maybe defend. No, looks like going to get a lock. So, well played by SK here. We are going to zap these. Just get rid of that Xbow. And that was a surprise kind of zap. And that's going to let us get that damage back. So I recognized that because of those archers Ice Spirit, he had overcommitted to that Xbow. And that means I was freed up to use that zap, excuse me. And we get a ghost hit back. And I think we have a slight elixir advantage due to how much he spent. So we're going to have to play really aggressively to come back in this game. And I think what I'm going to do is we're going to set up with a battle ram in the back. And I don't want a P.E.K.K.A because I don't have my zap. I just used it. But I do want a magic archer. And this is the tile, by the way, where you can dash a bandit at the bridge. So we'll just go with our magic archer. Again, we got his skeletons there. He's going to fireball. So now what we can do is we can cycle a bandit in the back opposite lane. And do you see how much elixir you need to spend there? We're definitely going to be up some here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tank for this bandit with a P.E.K.K.A at the bridge. He's not going to be able to punish me very aggressively because we've already got such a big elixir advantage. I'm just going to take this poison right here. We do have the skeletons. Very nice skeletons on his end to pull everything. Since that poison is there, I'm going to go in with the battle ram. Unfortunately, his Tesla's not dead. That might have been an overcommit. I thought his Tesla, or at least the knight, was going to die. So he's going to go in with an Xbow. We'll go Ewa's Ghost. And let's see what he does about it. He's going to go with a Ghost or Fireball. So we're going to go with a Magic Archer, get some chip damage, and try and kill this Xbow. Fortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. We're just going to zap that Xbow, take it out. And he's playing this pretty much perfectly. That first kind of starting hand where we couldn't kill that pre-Tesla, I think that's what cost us most of this game here. And then that overcommit battle ram. Definitely big mistakes on my end. So he's going to demonstrate that Tesla placement. I'm going to go with the poison, because what that's going to do is it's going to kill, of course, the archers and the Tesla here. And it's going to give me like 8 seconds to recover my elixir, since he can't play an Xbow into that poison. So we're going to go cycle our Ghost opposite lane and try and bait out a Knight here or a Tesla. And we're going to go in with a Bandit here to kill his Tesla. And so now that Tesla's dead, oh, that was a great Xbow on his end, actually. So we're going to go P.E.K.K.A up high. And I want to do this to pressure him, because I don't want him to be able to defend this battle ram. So he's actually going to cycle back to another Tesla. Perfectly played on his end. And that P.E.K.K.A got really, unfortunately, logged back. So we need to kill this Xbow. We do hit the skeleton, so very nice zap there. We'll cycle our Ghost again opposite lane. We got to keep up the pressure while I cycle to my P.E.K.K.A. And he's going to split his archers. He's going to go in with a Tesla, so I'm going to try and bandit snipe that. And with the magic archer, now that we have the magic archer on the field, we kind of have like a lane denial, so it's time to P.E.K.K.A. And he just had to overspend so much. So we're going to go P.E.K.K.A right here, and I'm actually going to get a Ghost in front of this. Or I'm going to try to. We're going to poison these archers outright. Don't care about the Tesla too much right now. And I think the P.E.K.K.A just pushed the battle ram out of the way. Oh, no, it didn't. It goes back to the Tesla. And really nice defense on his end here. We got to go in again. Knight's getting a ton of damage on my tower on the other lane. I think he's back to another Tesla. And we almost broke through there, but it doesn't look like we were able to. But that was definitely the right play attack-wise. So he's going to go in for a defensive Xbow. We need to P.E.K.K.A the bridge to protect this magic archer here. He's just going to fireball it out. And so now that P.E.K.K.A is kind of like a sitting duck. We're just going to zap that up. And maybe if we can lock this P.E.K.K.A onto the tower, He's going to be able to defend really well. Now he can commit all of his elixir since my Ram died. And so that was really well played on his end. And that's why it's such a tough matchup. That first starting hand really is what cost us there. Definitely a few overcommits here and there, but that first starting hand was definitely the killer attack of that matchup. Just couldn't get anything going with that pre-Tesla down and having to sacrifice so much to the battle ram. So GG to him, and I'll catch you in the next game. Alright, so we're going into our next match against SK. So with this starting hand, again, this is a really bad starting hand. I'm just going to take this Ice Spirit on the battle ram, try and bait out a Tesla here, because that's basically 3 elixir battle ram now, especially since he split the archers, and he doesn't have a way to block that Tesla. So that's a much better starting hand generation than the last game. So we're cycling our Ghost, and then I'm going to bandit late here. And what I do that for is I want this Ghost to maybe get ahead. Actually, no, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So he's going to be able to pull both to the... I'm going to pre-zap. I said that you should wait, but we do need... But I was like pretty confident that I could hit at least some of the skeletons with that pre-zap. So now we need to go in with really aggressive at the with the battle ram. So let's see what he's going to do to react to the barbs. So he's going to log. Alright, so that's going to be perfectly fine. We're going to take a quick lock here. But now we can go in with a bandit opposite lane since he's still going to have to respond to that. And he's only going to have like skeletons or something. He's actually going to have to eat the bandit. And we're going to definitely 100% take that zap. So this is a really much better game than the last time. He sends out a crying face. He's actually deafened right now, so he can't hear my commentary. But we're going to have to eat that knight. I cannot spend a 4 elixir card to counter that knight. It's just not worth it at all. We have a really nice damage lead. So the way we're going to try and play this is by turtling out ourselves until the end of the game. So I recognized that when he went in with that Xbow, it was kind of like a desperation Xbow to gain the damage that he just lost back. And that was going to make him susceptible to a lot of overcommits. And since he went in with archers and Xbow, that's pretty much all of his elixir. So I'm fine cycling my magic archer in this lane. Try and space out the battle ram so that it can't hit the magic archer. Okay, I messed up. That's very bad for me. But the one barb is making a beeline to the tower, and it does get the hit. Really nice stuff there. So now his archers are basically dead. I'm going to go with a P.E.K.K.A low to let those cross the bridge and die to my tower. And now we're going to do the tactic of cycling our Ghost in the opposite lane. That tower is so weak that it's such a threat to him that he can't really do anything about it. And since he doesn't have Fireball, he doesn't have a way to answer this E-Wiz, excuse me. So now we can go in like this. Definitely going to pre-zap here. And this is looking pretty dang good for us, I'm not going to lie. So again, just go P.E.K.K.A low so that I can get a Ghost going up high on this archer. I consider this archer to be down 1 elixir. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick geometry alignment here. So he's going to have to spend so much elixir over there defending that we can just kind of take this entire Tesla as a magic archer value. So now that magic archer provides pressure towards his other tower, go with our E-Wiz for that little bit of overkill. Magic archer does get a hit. I'm going to force out his Tesla here. This is going to let me build up my elixir again for that P.E.K.K.A and get the P.E.K.K.A back in cycle for his next Xbow. And as you can see, we are looking almost pristine in this match. About as pristine as you can get playing against Xbow. So he's going to go in for a defensive Xbow with that archer. I'm just going to take the poison. We're going to have our Ghost in this lane, denying that lane off a bit more. Going to go with my zap, and if the bandit had dashed, probably could have made up enough of a dash chain of invincibility to be good. So we'll cycle our battle ram in the back. This might be a choke, guys. Might have just choked. I think I choked, guys. Oh, no. I should have tried to zap his skeletons and win the game there. Alright, so going into our game against SK here, I'm going to do a different format because we have a limited time to record. We're on like really different time zones. So I'm going to include one game where I was playing really well and almost won. And then I'm going to include 1 win and 1 loss against him because he played almost perfectly in the loss that we already have. So I'm going to try and get a win here for this game. So he's going to go with the Tesla. Again, I can bandit that. The way you can tell is if the Tesla lights up with an exclamation point, you can bandit it. But we're just going to let it die. Not really much else I can do. I can't really cycle any of these cards until he cycles something. So I guess we'll just have to take that as a way to cycle the bandit now. So he goes with his knight. And I need to keep my Ghost for that knight because I don't really have a good answer otherwise. I can't play my E-Wiz or P.E.K.K.A on it. So we're just going to have to Ghost, try and kill it. So This is a lot of poison value, and I'm definitely going to take it. I kind of have to because I can't let those archers live. So we're just going to go with a high magic archer. Looks like it's not going to get on tower, but it is going to shoot off the skeleton and probably kill this Tesla. So see, is he going to go in offensively? Yes, he is. So we're pretty much even on elixir, though. So we are going to go with a high P.E.K.K.A. Go with an Ewiz here. And it's just gonna, he's just going to let it die. Well played. But again, I'm using that Ewiz to overkill. And yeah, you see the P.E.K.K.A just got another 6 elixir in value there on the archers because of that Ewiz. So a 10 for... or 11 for 12 trade, I believe. So not the worst trade in the world. Definitely a positive one. So, and his knight, since his knight is so far out of cycle, we're going to go in with the Royal Ghost. So let's see, is he going to go with skeletons? Yes, he is. So we're going to pre-zap those. We kill one. I need to battle ram kite, and we're just going to get back to our P.E.K.K.A here. Perfect. That's going to be really nice for me. Yeah, and he knows that that was not the best offensive Xbow he could have done. So since he still has to counter this P.E.K.K.A and Ewiz, we're going to play my... oh! The P.E.K.K.A is getting on tower, guys. Oh, we almost got a lot of damage. So I'm going to go Ghost. And then I'm going to go with a Magic Archer here to get the chip damage. And once this Magic Archer is through, should be all the chip damage we really need for the game. So we're not going to zap. I need to keep my Elixir in hand since he got that pre-Tesla. He can really protect it with an Xbow, which would be really bad for me. But we do have the damage necessary to win the game just off tiebreakers right now. So that's what we're going to aim to try and do. I do need to go in with an Ewiz. So I'm just going to take this poison on the pre-Tesla and the weak tower. We're going to try and enunciate that damage lead going into overtime. So again, cycle my bandit opposite lane. Or same lane apparently. Zap. Maybe we can get the bandit on Tesla or tower Xbow really quickly. We're going to go with an Ewiz opposite lane. And this Ewiz is also going to... It leaves the Magic Archer alive. That is huge for us, guys. So we can eat the Archer damage. Yes, and the Ewiz got another shot, guys. We are looking pretty dang good in this matchup. So we're going to go P.E.K.K.A at the bridge. And then I'm just going to poison. Going to try and get the skeletons here too. Yes, we do. Perfect. And then the knight will die in 2 hits to a P.E.K.K.A. So he's probably just going to have to let this Xbow go. And it does die. That's really huge for us. Now we go with another Ghost. Try and cycle back to our P.E.K.K.A. Gonna go with a Magic Archer, get some more chip damage. Really nice. So I can pretty much battle ram stall here until I need to save up for a P.E.K.K.A. So can we get it down in time? We do. Really good stuff here. And he uses the knight, which is not going to be the greatest. So looks like we might actually be able to come away with this game. We were playing this pretty well. I'm not going to poison those archers. I really want to, but yeah, I have to save it for his next Xbow. No, it was supposed to be a zap. Okay, I think it does not matter. We're gonna try and get some Magic Archer chip on this Xbow. 1 Ghost hit. Yes, and the Xbow dies. That is huge for us. That defense was absolutely critical to winning this game. Gonna go with the P.E.K.K.A at the bridge again, since that Tesla's gonna basically be dead, and then we can go with an Ewiz. And let's see what he's gonna do. So he's gonna go like that. Okay, we're just gonna poison zap. Alright, so we're still... That shouldn't be enough of a lock to really lose us the game quite yet. So we can go in for a Ghost. It's going to get onto that Xbow, which is really clutch. Just need to stall, guys. We do kill the Xbow. Okay, poison. And I think we're going to walk away with the victory. Oh my gosh, guys. Good game. He played that really well, but we managed to walk away with the win. Let's go. SK, so what did you think went wrong for you in that matchup right there?
Alright, so I think that I had a pretty big misconception a few times. Definitely, I thought that I outcycled your P.E.K.K.A many times when I actually didn't. And I feel like I played just a bit too aggressively. So, one of the times that I went in with an Xbow push... Okay, so I firstly want to say that you defended my Xbows really well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I could afford the instant fireball log. And then I also think that once I went overly aggressive, you knew that I had to overspend defending your P.E.K.K.A which is why you were able to get me in a bad position. So you actually set up for a really good magic archer alignment, I think one of the times in double elixir, and that was basically a really huge damage opportunity for you. And just because of how bad the matchup is for you, I was almost able to overpower you in triple by just kind of insanely
True.
aggressive, but you have the defense on lockdown, so I
Man,
think you basically capitalized on my over-aggression really well, which was really smart of you.
I agree. I think my punishes were pretty good there, and you'll see in the video just how close I was to losing on pretty much every defense you had. So that was really close to going the other way. But I agree. I think when I got damage, I was playing at my best. So my defenses weren't great, but like we pulled out a few defenses, or I pulled out a few defenses that I didn't think were possible. And I think it was a lot due to the opposite lane pressure. You kept having to go in and then slightly worry about my counter push, or you kept having to worry about a card in the opposite lane that we talked about earlier, because it was just like you couldn't ignore it to try and overpower me with your Xbow. So that poison zap at the end really saved me, but other than that, that was a pretty good game.
Yeah, so especially as you mentioned, I think this one time I tried to kind of subtly ignore ghosts and just get away with ice spirit skeletons, but I ended up taking a lot of damage for it, and you were still able to defend properly. So
Right.
yeah, I think that just shows if you defend perfectly as a P.E.K.K.A player, you can definitely capitalize on the Xbow player's mistakes.
For sure. And not sure how good the microphone is coming through because SK sounds a little bit more quiet, but if it's not coming through the greatest, I will like type out what he's saying on the screen so that you guys can listen to it. Alright, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I sure enjoyed recording this a lot with SK. Make sure if you guys haven't watched his video on the Skeletons placement and subscribe to his channel to do that. He's a very good YouTuber and I would definitely recommend subscribing. And make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, my own channel, if you enjoyed this video. And I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.